The rain hammered against the cracked window of the tiny apartment where Kai Hayashi sat on his worn mattress, staring at his trembling hands. Tomorrow would change everything, though not in the way most 19-year-olds dreamed about. Tomorrow he would be sold. Not in the dramatic, obvious way that people imagine when they hear that word. No, this was legal, wrapped in pretty ceremonies and formal contracts. In a world where omegas were rare and precious, where their ability to carry children made them treasures to be traded between powerful families, Kai should have been valuable. Should have been, but he wasn't. And that single medical diagnosis had transformed him from a person into a problem his parents desperately wanted to solve. The apartment door slammed open, making Kai flinch. His father, Mr. Hayashi, stumbled inside with the sharp smell of alcohol following him like a cloud. His mother trailed behind, her face twisted in that expression Kai knew too well, the one that said she was disappointed in him for simply existing. "Still sitting there feeling sorry for yourself?" His father sneered, swaying slightly as he pointed an accusing finger at Kai. "You should be grateful, boy, grateful that anyone would take you at all." Kai pressed his lips together, fighting back the words that wanted to escape. Arguing never helped. It only made things worse. His mother sat down at the small kitchen table, lighting a cigarette with shaking hands. "Mr. Tanaka's people called again today," she said, exhaling smoke. "They wanted to confirm the transaction. Do you know how lucky you are? A man of his wealth and status, willing to overlook your defect. That's what they called it. 6 months ago, Kai had gotten sick with a high fever that wouldn't break. The doctor at the free clinic had run tests and delivered news that shattered whatever small hope Kai had been holding on to. The illness had damaged something inside him, something that couldn't be fixed. He would never be able to have children. For an Omega, this was considered the worst possible fate. Kai remembered how his parents' faces had changed when the doctor explained. The disappointment had been immediate and crushing. His father had actually cursed out loud in the clinic. His mother had cried, not for Kai's loss, but for the money they would never receive from a proper mating contract. Because that's what Omega children were to families like his. They were lottery tickets, investments. A beautiful, fertile Omega could bring millions of dollars to a poor family through a mating contract with a wealthy alpha. Some Omegas even became celebrities, living in mansions, showered with gifts and luxury. Kai had grown up hearing stories about Omegas who lifted their entire families out of poverty with a single advantageous match. But an infertile Omega? That was just a mouth to feed, a disappointment, a failure. "Mr. Tanaka is 6 to 5 years old," Kai whispered, his voice barely audible over the sound of rain. "He's been through 7 Omegas already. Everyone says he's cruel." His father's hand slammed down on the table, making Kai jump. "And what did you expect? Prince Charming? A fairy tale romance? You're damaged goods, Kai. Mr. Tanaka offered us $1 million despite knowing you can't give him children. He wants a servant, someone to take care of his house and keep him company in his old age. That's all you're good for now." The words cut deep, even though Kai had heard similar things for months. His parents had spent that $1 million before Mr. Tanaka had even paid it. They'd bought a new car, new clothes, made promises to relatives about helping them financially. They'd celebrated while Kai lay awake at night, terrified of what his future held. "The ceremony is tomorrow at 2 in the afternoon, his mother said, stubbing out her cigarette. "Wear the blue Omega dress we got you. Try to look presentable. Don't embarrass us any more than you already have." Kai nodded silently. What else could he do? He had no money, no other family, nowhere to run. In this world, unmated Omegas without family support rarely survived on their own. The laws were designed to keep Omegas under someone's protection, which really meant under someone's control. That night, Kai barely slept. He kept thinking about Mr. Tanaka, about the stories he'd heard. The old alpha had a reputation for having a terrible temper, for expecting absolute obedience, for punishing Omegas who displeased him. 2 of his previous Omegas had run away, though no one knew what happened to them after. The others had simply disappeared from public view, hidden away in Mr. Tanaka's estate. When morning came, Kai's mother forced him into the Omega dress, a traditional garment in soft blue that was supposed to make Omegas look delicate and desirable. She tried to style his dark brown hair, clicking her tongue in irritation. "At least you're pretty," she muttered. "That's something. Your face might keep the old man happy for a while." The ceremony was held in a large hall in the wealthy district of the city. Kai had never been anywhere so fancy. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, and the floors were polished marble that reflected the lights like ice. This was where Omega selection ceremonies took place, where alphas with money came to choose Omegas for mating contracts. About 20 Omegas stood in a line, all dressed in traditional clothes, all wearing the silver bracelets that marked them as available for selection. Most looked nervous but hopeful. They were the lucky ones, the fertile Omegas whose families had brought them here seeking the best possible match. Some were smiling, whispering to each other about which alpha they hoped would choose them. Kai stood at the end of the line feeling completely out of place. His bracelet had a small mark on it, a tiny symbol that indicated his infertility to anyone who knew to look for it. He kept his eyes down, not wanting to see the pity or disgust in anyone's gaze. The ceremony master, an elderly beta woman in elegant robes, explained the rules. Alphas would enter and observe the Omegas. They could ask questions, request medical records, and make their selections. Once an alpha chose an Omega and the Omega's family agreed to terms, the contract would be signed immediately. However, the ceremony master announced, "We have one Omega today who is already spoken for. Kai Hayashi has been pre-selected by Mr. Tanaka. This is simply a formality." Several Omegas turned to look at Kai with sympathy. Everyone knew who Mr. Tanaka was. Kai felt his cheeks burn with shame. His parents stood nearby with fake smiles on their faces, already counting the money they would receive. The doors opened and alphas began entering. They were all wealthy, judging by their expensive clothes and the way they carried themselves. Some were young and handsome, others were older but distinguished. They walked along the line of Omegas, some stopping to talk, others simply observing. Kai tried to make himself invisible. He didn't want to be here. He didn't want to be seen. He just wanted this nightmare to be over. Then something changed. The atmosphere in the room shifted. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Even the ceremony master straightened up, her eyes widening. Kai looked up and immediately understood why. A man had entered the hall, and he was unlike anyone Kai had ever seen. Tall and broad-shouldered, he wore a perfectly tailored black suit that probably cost more than Kai's family had made in years. His hair was dark as midnight, styled back from a face that could have been carved from stone. But it was his eyes that caught Kai's attention, sharp gray eyes that seemed to see everything, miss nothing. There was an aura of danger around him, of power barely contained. People were whispering urgently. "That's Riku Nakamura, the Nakamura family boss. What's he doing here? I heard he's looking for someone to help raise his sons." Kai had heard of the Nakamura family. Everyone had. They ran one of the most powerful mafia organizations in the country, controlling businesses, politicians, and entire neighborhoods. Riku Nakamura was the head of the family, and rumors said he was brilliant, ruthless, and absolutely not someone you wanted as an enemy. Riku Nakamura walked slowly along the line of Omegas, his expression unreadable. Some Omegas tried to catch his eye, standing straighter, smiling. Others looked terrified. When he passed Kai without stopping, Kai felt a confusing mix of relief and something else he couldn't name. But then Riku stopped. He stood still for a long moment, then turned around and walked back. He stopped directly in front of Ki. Kai's heart hammered in his chest. He kept his eyes down, not daring to look up. Why was this dangerous man standing in front of him? "Look at me," Riku said. His voice was deep and surprisingly gentle. Kai slowly raised his eyes and met that intense gray gaze. For a moment, the entire world seemed to fall away. There was something in those eyes, something Kai couldn't understand. Not cruelty or hunger or the calculating look he'd seen in other alphas' faces. Something different. "What's your name?" Riku asked. Keiki he managed to whisper, his voice shaking. "Kai Hayashi." Kai hadn't even realized tears were running down his face. He quickly tried to wipe them away, embarrassed. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Don't apologize," Riku said softly. He turned to the ceremony master. "I want this Omega. What's the arrangement?" The ceremony master looked flustered. Sir, Mr. Nakamura, this Omega is already claimed. His family has a contract with Mr. Tanaka. As if summoned by his name, an old man pushed his way through the crowd. Mr. Tanaka was everything Kai had feared, his face red with anger, his small eyes glittering with possessiveness. That Omega is mine, Mr. Tanaka shouted, pointing at Ki. His parents took my money, we have an agreement. Riku turned to face Mr. Tanaka, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. Several people actually stepped back. The Mafia boss's expression was calm, but there was steel underneath it. How much did you pay? Riku asked quietly. $1 million, plus expenses. You can't just, I'll pay you $3 million, Riku interrupted. Triple your investment, plus an additional $1 million for the inconvenience. $4 million total. The room erupted in shocked whispers. That was an enormous amount of money for any Omega, let alone one who was infertile. Mr. Tanaka's mouth opened and closed like a fish. His face turned from red to purple. This is outrageous. We had an agreement, and now you have a better offer, Riku said, his voice carrying a note of finality that suggested the discussion was over. $4 million. Take it, or I'll look into your business dealings more closely. I hear you have some import contracts that might not be entirely legal. Mr. Tanaka's expression changed to fear. He looked at Riku, then at Ki, then back at Riku. Finally, he nodded stiffly. Fine, the Omega is yours. Kai's parents rushed forward, their faces transformed by greed. His father bowed repeatedly to Riku. Mr. Nakamura, sir, thank you so much for your generosity. Our son will serve you well. We raised him to be obedient and save it, Riku said coldly, cutting off Mr. Hayashi mid-sentence. He pulled out a checkbook and wrote quickly, then handed checks to both Mr. Tanaka and Kai's father. Our business is concluded. The Omega comes with me now. Kai's mother grabbed his arm, leaning close to whisper urgently. Don't mess this up, Kai. This man paid $4 million. Do whatever he says, understand? Don't embarrass us. Kai nodded numbly, too shocked to process what was happening. Everything had changed so quickly. One moment he was resigned to a terrible fate with Mr. Tanaka. The next he was being claimed by the most dangerous man in the city. Riku held out his hand to Kai. Come with me, you don't have to stay here anymore. Kai looked at that outstretched hand, then at his parents' greedy faces, then at Mr. Tanaka's angry scowl. He had no idea what awaited him with Riku Nakamura, but it couldn't be worse than what he was leaving behind. He placed his small hand in Riku's larger one. The moment their hands touched, Kai felt something electric pass between them. Riku's hand was warm and strong, and his grip was gentle despite his obvious power. He led Kai out of the ceremony hall, through the crowd of whispering people, out into the afternoon sunlight. A sleek black car waited at the curb. A man in a suit opened the back door, and Riku helped Kai inside before sliding in next to him. The interior was luxurious, with leather seats and privacy glass. As the car pulled away from the ceremony hall, Kai sat stiffly, his hands clasped in his lap, his mind racing with questions and fears. He didn't know what to say or do. This man had just paid $4 million for him. What would he expect in return? Are you hurt? Riku asked, breaking the silence. Kai shook his head quickly. No, sir. Don't call me sir. My name is Riku. He studied Kai's face carefully. You're scared. That's understandable. But I need you to listen to me carefully. I didn't bring you to hurt you or use you. Do you understand? Kai didn't understand at all. Why else would an alpha pay so much money for an omega? But he nodded anyway. I have 3 sons, Riku continued. They're 5 years old, triplets. Their birth parent died 2 years ago, and since then, I've been raising them alone with help from staff. But they need more than that. They need someone who can be there for them emotionally, someone kind and patient. When I looked at you in that hall, I saw kindness in your eyes despite your fear. That's what my children need. I can't have children, Kai whispered, the familiar shame washing over him. I'm infertile. Everyone says that makes me worthless. Riku's expression hardened. Then everyone is wrong. My sons don't need someone who can have children. They need someone who will love them for who they are. Can you do that? Kai thought about it. He'd always liked children. Before his diagnosis, he'd dreamed of having his own family someday. I think so. I can try. That's all I ask, Riku said. His expression softened slightly. I won't force you to do anything you don't want to do. You'll have your own room, your own space. If at any point you want to leave, you can. I'll make sure you have money and resources to start a new life. Kai stared at him in disbelief. You'd let me leave? After paying $4 million? That money bought your freedom from your parents and from Mr. Tanaka, Riku said firmly. It didn't buy you. You're not a possession, Kai. You're a person. I hope you'll stay and help me with my sons, but the choice is yours. No one had ever talked to Kai like this before. No one had ever asked what he wanted or given him choices. He felt tears threatening again and blinked them back. Thank you, he whispered. The car drove through increasingly wealthy neighborhoods until it finally stopped in front of massive iron gates. The gates opened automatically, and they drove up a long driveway lined with beautiful trees. The house at the end was actually a mansion, 3 stories of elegant architecture with perfectly maintained gardens surrounding it. Kai felt his anxiety spike. He'd never been anywhere like this. He didn't belong here. As if sensing his panic, Riku placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. Breathe. It's just a house. Yes, it's big, but that just means there's plenty of space. You'll get used to it. They entered through the front door into a huge entryway with marble floors and a grand staircase. But Kai barely had time to take it in before he heard the thunder of small feet and excited shouting. 3 little boys came running down the hallway, and Kai's breath caught in his throat. They were absolutely identical, with Riku's dark hair and the most beautiful brown eyes Kai had ever seen. They wore matching outfits in different colors, red, blue, and green, probably to tell them apart. Papa, Papa, you're home, they shouted in unison, running straight to Riku. Riku's entire demeanor changed. The dangerous Mafia boss disappeared, replaced by a loving father. He knelt down and gathered all 3 boys into his arms, hugging them tightly. Hey, my little ones, were you good today? Yes, they chorused. The boy in red noticed Kai first. His eyes went wide. Papa, who's that? Riku stood up, keeping his hands on his son's shoulders. Boys, this is Kai. He's going to be living with us now. I'm hoping he'll help take care of you. Can you introduce yourselves? The boy in red stepped forward confidently. I'm Haru. I'm the oldest, and I'm really brave. The boy in blue peeked out from behind Riku shyly. I'm Yuki. I like to draw. The boy in green bounced excitedly. I'm Sora. Do you like dinosaurs? I really, really like dinosaurs. Kai felt a smile tugging at his lips despite his nervousness. They were adorable. It's nice to meet you all. I'm Kai. And yes, Sora, I do like dinosaurs. Sora's face lit up. Really? Which one is your favorite? Mine is the T-Rex because it has big teeth and it's really strong. Sora, give Kai a chance to breathe, Riku said with amusement in his voice. He just got here. How about you 3 show him to his room? It's the blue one on the 2nd floor. Okay, the triplets shouted together. Haru grabbed one of Kai's hands, and Sora grabbed the other. Even shy Yuki walked close beside him as they led him up the grand staircase, chattering about everything from their toys to what they had for lunch. Kai looked back at Riku, who was watching them with an expression Kai couldn't quite read. Something warm and hopeful. The blue room turned out to be bigger than Kai's entire old apartment. It had a huge bed with soft blankets, a private bathroom, a desk, a bookshelf, and even a balcony overlooking the gardens. Kai stood in the doorway, overwhelmed. Do you like it? Haru asked eagerly. It's too much, Kai whispered. Papa said to give you the nicest room, Sora declared. Because you're going to help take care of us. Yuki tugged on Kai's sleeve gently. Will you read us stories? Our other parent used to read us stories every night, but since they went to heaven, Papa tries, but he's not very good at the voices. Kai looked down at these 3 little boys who were looking up at him with such hope, and something inside his chest cracked open. These children had lost their parent. They were dealing with grief at such a young age, and here they were welcoming him with open arms. Yes, Kai said softly. I'll read you stories. I'll do the best voices I can. All 3 boys cheered and hugged his legs, nearly knocking him over. Kai laughed, actually laughed for the first time in months. That night, after dinner where the boys told him everything about their lives in excited run-on sentences, Kai found himself sitting on the edge of his new bed, trying to process everything that had happened. This morning he'd woken up expecting to be sold to a cruel old man. Now he was in a mansion, with 3 adorable children who actually seemed to like him, and an alpha who had promised he wasn't a possession. It was too good to be true. Things like this didn't happen to people like Kai. There had to be a catch, something he wasn't seeing. Riku Nakamura was a mafia boss, a dangerous man. Why would he be kind? But as Kai lay down in the softest bed he'd ever felt, listening to the quiet of this big house, he allowed himself a small moment of hope. Maybe, just maybe, his life was finally changing for the better. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new uncertainties. But for tonight, Kai was safe, warm, and fed. For someone who had expected much worse, that was more than enough. 3 months had passed since Kai arrived at the Nakamura mansion, and his life had transformed in ways he never could have imagined. Every morning, he woke up in that beautiful blue room, and for a few seconds, he still couldn't believe this was real. Then he would hear the pounding of small feet in the hallway, followed by 3 voices shouting, "Mama Kai," and his heart would fill with warmth. The triplets had started calling him that after the first month. Kai had been reading them a bedtime story when Sora had sleepily murmured, "Good night, Mama Kai." Haru and Yuki had immediately adopted the name, and Kai hadn't had the heart to correct them. The truth was, he loved it. He loved these boys as if they were his own. Kai had settled into a routine. He woke early to prepare breakfast for the boys, making sure they ate healthy food, even though they always tried to negotiate for more sweets. He walked them to the private car that took them to their exclusive school, waving until they were out of sight. During the day, while they were gone, Kai managed the household staff, learned about running the large mansion, and sometimes met with Riku to discuss the children's needs. Riku was nothing like Kai had expected. Yes, he was the head of a powerful mafia family, and sometimes Kai would overhear phone conversations that reminded him of the dangerous world Riku operated in. But with Kai and the children, Riku was patient, respectful, and kind. He never raised his voice. He always asked rather than ordered. He treated Kai like an equal partner in raising the boys, not like a servant or a possession. It confused Kai sometimes. He'd been taught his whole life that alphas, especially powerful ones, would be controlling and demanding. But Riku gave him freedom. When Kai expressed interest in learning to cook better, Riku hired a professional chef to teach him. When Kai mentioned missing books, an entire library appeared in one of the spare rooms. When Kai nervously asked if he could decorate his room differently, Riku handed him an unlimited credit card and told him to make it his own. "Why are you so nice to me?" Kai had asked one evening, about 2 months in. They were sitting in Riku's study while the boys played in the next room. Riku had looked up from his paperwork, his gray eyes thoughtful. "Why wouldn't I be nice to you? You're taking care of the most important people in my life. You've brought happiness back into this house." The boys laugh again. Really laugh. "That's priceless to me. But I'm just an Omega, an infertile one. People like me aren't usually treated well." "Then those people are fools," Riku had said firmly. "Kai, I need you to understand something. Your value as a person has nothing to do with whether you can have children. Nothing. You're intelligent, kind, patient, creative, and you have one of the biggest hearts I've ever seen. Those are the things that matter." Kai had felt tears welling up. No one had ever said anything like that to him before. "I don't know if I believe that yet." "That's okay," Riku had replied gently. "Believing in yourself takes time. I can wait." Now, 3 months later, Kai was starting to believe it. Little by little, the constant voice in his head that told him he was worthless was getting quieter. It helped that the triplets loved him unconditionally. It helped that the household staff treated him with respect. It helped that Riku never made him feel less than whole. But old wounds don't heal overnight, and Kai still struggled with doubts. It was a sunny Tuesday afternoon, and Kai was in the kitchen making snacks for when the boys got home from school. The mansion's head of security, a tall man named Kenji, who was also Riku's best friend and second in command, walked in looking serious. "Kai, we have a situation," Kenji said carefully. "There are people at the front gate claiming to be your parents. They're demanding to see you." Kai's hands froze mid-motion, the knife he'd been using to cut fruit clattering to the counter. His parents. He hadn't heard from them since the day Riku had taken him from the ceremony hall. Part of him had hoped he never would. "What do they want?" Kai asked, his voice coming out shakier than he'd like. "They won't say, just that it's urgent family business." Kenji's expression was sympathetic. "Riku's in his office. He said to tell him immediately if this happened. Do you want me to get him?" Kai took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing heart. "No. I mean, yes, but I'll come with you. I should face them." They found Riku in his study, reviewing documents. The moment he saw Kai's pale face, he was on his feet. "What's wrong?" "My parents are at the gate," Kai said quietly. "They want to see me." Riku's expression hardened. "You don't have to see them. I can have security send them away." "No, I need to know what they want." Kai tried to sound brave, but his hands were shaking. "Can you be there with me?" "Of course." Riku walked over and placed a gentle hand on Kai's shoulder. "Whatever happens, remember that they have no power over you anymore. You're safe here." They went to Riku's office, a large room with windows overlooking the gardens. Kenji brought Kai's parents in, and the moment Kai saw them, all the old feelings came flooding back. The fear, the shame, the desperate need to please them even though he knew it was impossible. His mother looked thinner than he remembered, and there were dark circles under her eyes. His father's face was haggard, and his clothes looked worn. They both stared at Kai with expressions that might have been relief or might have been calculation. "Our precious son!" his mother exclaimed, rushing forward with her arms outstretched. "We've been so worried about you." Kai stepped back instinctively, and Riku moved slightly in front of him, a subtle protective gesture. "Mrs. Hayashi, Mr. Hayashi, state your business." His father's eyes flickered with fear when he looked at Riku, but then he seemed to gather his courage. "We need to speak with our son, privately. It's a family matter." "Kai is part of my family now," Riku said coolly. "Anything you have to say to him, you can say in front of me." His mother's fake smile snipped for a moment, revealing the calculating look underneath. Then she turned to Kai, tears suddenly streaming down her face. "Oh, Kai. We've been so terrible to you. We're sorry, so sorry. We were under so much financial pressure, and we made bad decisions. But we've changed. We want to make things right." Kai wanted to believe her. Despite everything, some small part of him still wanted his parents to love him. But the words sounded rehearsed, mechanical. "How did you find me?" Kai asked quietly. "We asked around," his father said. "Everyone knows about the Nakamura family. We just wanted to see if you were okay, to apologize for how we treated you." "We're your family, Kai," his mother added, taking a step closer. "We'll always be your family. Blood is thicker than water, isn't that what they say?" Riku made a sound that might have been a laugh, but there was no humor in it. "Actually, the full saying is the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. It means that relationships you choose are stronger than those you're born into. And from what I understand, you made your choice very clear when you sold your son." His father's face reddened. "Now see here, we did what we had to do. We were desperate. You don't know what it's like to be poor, to struggle every day. So you sold your child," Riku said, his voice dangerously quiet, "and spent the money on a new car, new clothes, and from what my people tell me, several trips to expensive restaurants and casinos." His parents' faces went pale. They clearly hadn't expected Riku to know the details of what they'd done with the money. "We made mistakes," his mother cried. "But we've learned. We lost everything, Kai. All the money is gone. We invested in some businesses that failed. We're living in a terrible apartment now. We can barely afford food. Please, you have to help us. You're living in luxury here. You could spare something for your own parents." And there it was. The real reason they'd come. They wanted money. Kai felt something crack inside him. Not the same kind of crack that had happened when Riku had been kind to him, but a different kind, a breaking away. He looked at these two people who had given him life, who had raised him, and he saw them clearly for the first time. They didn't love him. they probably never had. He had always been a means to an end for them. "No," Kai said, his voice quiet but firm. His mother blinked. "What?" "No," Kai repeated, louder this time. "I won't help you. You didn't treat me like a son. You treated me like property. You told me I was worthless, broken, a disappointment. You sold me to a man you knew was cruel. The only reason you're here now is because you want money, not because you care about me." His father's face twisted with anger. "You ungrateful little brat, after everything we did for you, we fed you, clothed you, kept a roof over your head. That's basic parenting," Riku interjected coldly. "You don't get awards for meeting the bare minimum requirements of not letting your child starve or freeze. You certainly don't get to demand payback for it. This is between us and our son," his father shouted. "Wrong again," Riku said, and there was steel in his voice now. "Kai is under my protection. He's part of my family. And in my family, we don't tolerate people who hurt the people we care about." He turned to Kenji. "Show them out. If they come back to this property again, call the police and have them arrested for trespassing." "You'll regret this," his mother shrieked as Kenji firmly took her arm. "You think this alpha cares about you, Kai? He'll get bored of you. He'll throw you away like garbage when he finds someone better. Then you'll come crawling back to us, and we won't take you in." "That's enough," Kenji said firmly, guiding them toward the door. His father tried one more time, his voice desperate now. "Kai, please, we're your parents. You can't turn your back on family." Kai looked at them, and for the first time, he felt something other than fear or shame. He felt pity. They were so blinded by greed and their own problems that they couldn't see what they'd lost. "You stopped being my family the day you sold me," Kai said quietly. "Real parents don't do that. Real family doesn't treat each other like objects to be traded. I have a real family now, and you're not part of it." The door closed behind his parents' retreating forms, their protests fading down the hallway. The moment they were gone, Kai's legs gave out. Riku caught him, guiding him to a chair, and suddenly Kai was sobbing. All the pain, all the years of being told he wasn't good enough, all the fear and shame came pouring out in great heaving sobs. Riku knelt beside the chair and held Kai while he cried, not saying anything, just being there. His presence was solid, steady, safe. "I'm sorry," Kai gasped out between sobs. "I'm sorry I shouldn't be falling apart like this." "You have every right to fall apart," Riku said gently. "They hurt you, for years, from the sound of it. Crying doesn't make you weak, Kai. It makes you human." Eventually, Kai's sobs quieted to hiccups and then to silence. He felt drained but also lighter somehow, as if crying had released some of the poison he'd been carrying inside. "Thank you," Kai whispered. "For being there, for protecting me. Always," Riku said simply. "That's what family does." The next few days were difficult. Kai felt emotionally raw, like all his protective walls had come down. But the triplets seemed to sense he needed extra love, and they were constantly hugging him, drawing him pictures, telling him jokes to make him smile. It helped more than they could know. About a week after his parents' visit, Kai was sitting in the library reading when there was a knock on the door. It was Kenji. "Kai, you have a visitor," Kenji said. "A young woman named Akane. She says she was your friend in school." Kai's eyes widened. "Akane." They'd been best friends as children, but after Kai's diagnosis, his parents had cut him off from all his friends. "She's here? Really?" "She seems genuine," Kenji said. "But I can send her away if you're not comfortable." "No, please let her in." Kai was already on his feet, excited and nervous. Akane looked exactly as Kai remembered, just a little older. She had the same warm brown eyes and quick smile. The moment she saw Ki, she ran to him and hugged him tightly. "Kai!" "Oh, my God, I finally found you," she exclaimed. "I've been looking for you for months, after you disappeared. No one would tell me what happened. Your parents moved and wouldn't give me their new address. I was so worried." They sat down together, and Kai told her everything, well, most of it. He left out the details about Riku's Mafia connections, but he explained about the ceremony, about being brought here, about the triplets. "So you're happy?" Akane asked, studying his face carefully. "Really happy?" Kai thought about it. "I am. It's strange. I spent so long thinking my life was over because I can't have children, but now I have 3 children who call me mama, and I love them so much. I have a home where people treat me with respect. I have freedom." Akane squeezed his hand. "I'm so glad. You deserve happiness, Kai. You always did." Then her expression turned serious. "But I need to warn you about something. Your parents have been telling lies about you all over town." Kai's stomach dropped. "What kind of lies?" "They're saying you abandoned them, that you chose wealth over family. They're claiming Riku kidnapped you against your will. They're trying to make themselves look like victims." Akane looked angry. "I didn't believe them for a second. I know how they treated you. But other people are believing their story." Kai felt sick. Of course his parents wouldn't accept responsibility for their actions. Of course they'd try to twist the narrative to make themselves look good. "There's more," Akane said hesitantly. "I overheard them talking to some shady people at a cafe. I couldn't hear everything, but it sounded like they're planning something involving you. They mentioned getting money one way or another. I think they might try to cause trouble, Kai. Please be careful." Kai told Riku about this conversation that evening, after the boys were in bed. Riku listened carefully, his expression growing darker. "I'll increase security," Riku said immediately. "And I'll have my people look into who your parents have been meeting with. If they're planning something, we'll know about it." "I'm sorry," Kai said miserably. "I'm bringing problems to your family." Riku reached across the table and took Kai's hand, and the touch sent warmth through Kai's entire body. "You're not bringing problems, your parents are. There's a difference. And Kai, you are part of this family. Your problems are my problems. That's how this works." Kai looked down at their joined hands. Riku's hand was so much bigger than his, strong and warm. Kai had been noticing things about Riku lately, things that made his heart beat faster. The way Riku smiled when he played with his sons, the gentle way he spoke, the rare moments when Riku laughed, a deep sound that made Kai's chest feel light. He was falling in love with Riku. The realization had been creeping up on him for weeks, but now it hit him fully. He loved this man. Not because Riku had saved him, though he had. Not because Riku was handsome, though he was. But because of who Riku was as a person, a good father, a fair leader, someone who kept his promises. "Kai," Riku said softly, "can I tell you something?" Kai looked up and met those gray eyes. "Of course. That day at the ceremony hall when I first saw you." Riku paused, seeming to gather his thoughts. "I went there looking for someone practical, someone who could help with my sons. But when I saw you standing there with tears in your eyes but trying so hard to be brave, something inside me shifted. I felt drawn to you in a way I haven't felt since my first mate died." Kai's breath caught. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that over these past 3 months watching you with my sons, getting to know you as a person, I've developed feelings for you. Real feelings." Riku's thumb gently stroked the back of Kai's hand. "I'm falling in love with you, Kai. I know the circumstances of how we met were unusual, and I know you might not feel the same way. But I wanted to be honest with you." Kai felt tears pricking his eyes again, but this time they were happy tears. "I love you too," he whispered. "I think I've been falling in love with you for a while now. I was afraid to say it. Afraid it was too good to be true." Riku smiled, and it transformed his usually serious face. "It's real, Kai. This is real. We're real." He stood up and moved around the table, gently pulling Kai to his feet. "I want to ask you something, and please know you can say no. Would you consider becoming my mate? Not because of any contract or arrangement, but because we choose each other?" Kai's heart was pounding so hard he thought it might burst from his chest. "Yes," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "Yes, I want that. I want to be your mate. I want to be part of this family, really part of it." Riku cupped Kai's face in his hands and leaned down, kissing him gently. It was Kai's first real kiss, and it was perfect, sweet and tender and full of promise. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. "The boys are going to be so excited," Riku said with a laugh. "They've been asking me when you were going to officially become their mama." Kai laughed too, feeling lighter than he had in his entire life. "Have they really?" "Every single day." Riku pulled Kai close, wrapping his arms around him. "Welcome home, Kai. Welcome to where you've always belonged." Standing there in Riku's arms, in the home he'd come to love, thinking about the three boys sleeping upstairs who had filled his life with joy, Kai finally understood what it meant to have a real family. It wasn't about blood or biology. It was about love, respect, and choosing to be there for each other. He was home. 6 months after Kai and Riku officially became mates, life in the Nakamura household had settled into a beautiful rhythm. The bonding ceremony had been private and small, just them, the triplets, Kenji, and a few close friends. Kai wore traditional white omega robes, and when Riku placed the bonding mark on his neck, claiming him as a true mate, Kai had cried tears of pure joy. The triplets had been flower boys at the ceremony, throwing petals everywhere and cheering loudly when their papa and mama kissed. Afterward, Sora had asked if this meant they could have cake for dinner, which had made everyone laugh. These moments of simple happiness were what Kai treasured most. Now, 8 months into living at the mansion, Kai had grown in confidence. He'd started taking online classes in child development, discovering he had a passion for understanding how children learned and grew. Riku had supported this completely, even setting up a private study room for him. Kai had also begun volunteering at a local Omega shelter, helping other Omegas who'd been abandoned or mistreated, giving them the support he wished he'd had. The triplets were thriving too. Haru had joined a martial arts class and loved to show Chi all his new moves. Yuki had discovered a talent for painting and filled their home with colorful artwork. Sora remained obsessed with dinosaurs and could recite facts about them for hours. All three were doing excellently in school and had grown even more attached to Kai, if that was possible. Riku continued to keep his Mafia business separate from their family life, but Kai knew it was always there in the background. Sometimes Riku came home late from meetings, looking tired and stressed. During those times, Kai would make him tea and sit with him, not asking questions but just being present. Their relationship had deepened into true partnership, built on trust and mutual respect. But peace, as Kai was learning, never lasted forever. It was a beautiful Saturday morning in early autumn. The trees around the mansion were turning gold and red, and there was a pleasant chill in the air. Kai had promised to take the triplets to their favorite park, and he was excited for the outing. They'd been planning it all week. Riku had an important meeting that morning, so it would just be Kai and the boys. 2 of Riku's security team, trained bodyguards who always accompanied the family on outings, went with them. Kai had gotten used to having protection, though sometimes it felt like overkill for a simple trip to the park. The park was crowded with families enjoying the nice weather. The triplets ran ahead to their favorite playground, with Kai calling after them to be careful. The security guards positioned themselves at a distance, close enough to intervene if needed but far enough to give the family some privacy. Kai sat on a bench, watching his boys play. Haru was showing off his climbing skills on the jungle gym. Yuki was drawing in the sandbox. Sora was running around roaring like a dinosaur, making other children laugh. Kai's heart was full of love as he watched them. He didn't notice the black van pulling up at the curb until it was too late. Men in dark clothes poured out of the van, moving with frightening speed. The security guards reacted immediately, but they were outnumbered. Kai jumped to his feet, screaming for the boys, but rough hands grabbed him from behind. "No! Let me go! Help!" Kai struggled desperately, but whoever had him was much stronger. "Papa's boys! Run!" One of the security guards yelled before someone hit him. The triplets screamed in terror, and Kai saw other parents grabbing their children protectively. A cloth pressed over Kai's mouth and nose, smelling of chemicals. Kai tried not to breathe it in, still fighting, but his body wasn't listening anymore. Everything went fuzzy and dark. The last thing Kai heard before losing consciousness was Haru's voice screaming, "Mama Kai." When Kai woke up, his head felt like it was stuffed with cotton and his mouth tasted terrible. He was sitting in a chair, his hands tied behind his back in what looked like an old warehouse. Broken windows let in weak sunlight, and the place smelled of rust and decay. Fear crashed over Kai like a wave. Where was he? Where were the boys? Were they safe? "Ah, you're awake. Good." Kai's head snapped toward the voice. An old man stepped out of the shadows, and Kai's blood ran cold. Mr. Tanaka, the alpha who had wanted to buy him at the ceremony hall all those months ago. "You..." Kai whispered, his voice hoarse. Mr. Tanaka smiled, but it was a cruel expression. Yes, me? Did you think I'd forgotten about the humiliation your alpha caused me? Forced to give you up, made to look weak in front of everyone. He walked closer, and Kai tried not to flinch. You cost me money and reputation, boy. Now you're going to help me get both back. Riku will find me, Kai said, trying to sound braver than he felt. When he does, you'll regret this. Mr. Tanaka laughed. Oh, I'm counting on him finding you? That's the whole point. I'm going to demand a ransom, $10 million. If he doesn't pay, well... He shrugged meaningfully. Kai's mind was racing. The boys, were they safe? Had the security guards protected them? The thought of Haru, Yuki, and Sora being scared and crying for him made Kai's chest hurt. How did you even find me? Kai asked, stalling for time. Your parents, of course, Mr. Tanaka said casually. They came to me a few weeks ago with a proposition. They told me about your routine when you'd be vulnerable. I paid them $50,000 for the information. Quite the business-minded people, your parents. They were very eager to help once they learned there was money involved. Kai felt like he'd been punched in the stomach. His parents had betrayed him again. They'd helped kidnappers, their own son, for money. The pain of that betrayal was sharp and deep. Kai had cut them out of his life, had told himself he didn't care what they thought anymore. But learning that they'd actively helped someone who wanted to hurt him, that was a different level of cruelty. You look surprised, Mr. Tanaka observed. You shouldn't be. You're an Omega. Your only value is what you can bring to others. Your parents understood that. You're wrong, Kai said, and despite his fear, his voice was steady. I have value because I'm a person, because I love and am loved, because I matter to people. That's more than money will ever be worth. Mr. Tanaka's expression turned ugly. Such brave words from someone tied to a chair. Let's see how brave you are after a few hours alone in the dark. He left, and Kai heard a door slam and lock. The warehouse fell quiet except for the sound of wind through the broken windows. Chi tried to stay calm, but panic kept threatening to overwhelm him. He tested the ropes binding his wrists, but they were tight and well-tied. He looked around for anything that might help him escape, but the warehouse was mostly empty. All he could do was wait and hope that Riku would find him before Mr. Tanaka did something worse. Meanwhile, at the Nakamura mansion, Riku was experiencing the kind of fear he'd never felt before. Not even in the most dangerous situations his Mafia work had put him in. He'd gotten the call from his security team while still in his meeting. Sir, there's been an incident at the park. Omega Chi has been taken. The boys are safe but traumatized. Riku had left immediately, his heart in his throat. When he arrived home and saw his 3 sons crying in the living room, being comforted by staff, something inside him turned to pure rage. Whoever had done this would pay dearly. Papa! The triplets ran to him, and Riku gathered them into his arms, holding them tight. Where's Mama Kai? Sora sobbed. Bad men took him. I tried to be brave, Haru cried, but I couldn't stop them. Yuki was too upset to speak, just clinging to Riku's shirt and shaking. Listen to me, Riku said firmly but gently. It's not your fault. None of this is your fault. Papa's going to bring Mama Kai home safely. I promise you. He got them settled with their favorite caretaker and went to his office where Kenji and the rest of his team were already working. Talk to me, Riku demanded. 6 men, professionals by the look of it, Kenji reported. They specifically targeted Kai. They knocked out our guards but didn't kill them, suggesting they don't want murder charges. The van was stolen, but we're tracking it now. Who? Riku's voice was cold as ice. Who would dare attack my family? One of his tech specialists looked up from a computer. Boss, we just got a call. Someone claiming to have Kai. They want $10 million. Put it through, Riku ordered. Mr. Tanaka's voice came through the speaker, smug and satisfied. Mr. Nakamura, I believe I have something of yours. Riku recognized the voice immediately, and everything clicked into place. Tanaka, you made a very big mistake. Did I? I don't think so. I have your precious Omega. $10 million, and you get him back unharmed. Refuse, and well, I'm sure you can imagine what might happen to such a pretty Omega. Riku's hands clenched into fists, but his voice remained controlled. Name the place and time. I'll bring the money. Smart man. There's an old factory on the east side near the docks. Come alone at midnight. No police, no backup, or your Omega suffers. The call ended. Riku immediately turned to his team. Find that factory. I want building layouts, security footage from the surrounding area, everything. And find out who helped Tanaka. This wasn't just him. It was Kenji who discovered the connection to Kai's parents. Boss, bank records show a $50,000 deposit into the Hayashi's account 2 weeks ago. Source traces back to one of Tanaka's shell companies. Riku felt his rage grow colder and sharper. They helped him. They helped someone kidnap their own son. What do you want me to do? Find them. Bring them here. I want answers. Within 2 hours, Riku's people had located Kai's parents hiding in a cheap hotel on the outskirts of the city. They were brought to the mansion, looking terrified. We didn't know he was going to hurt Kai. His mother insisted immediately. We just thought he wanted to scare him a little, to get back at you. Riku stood in front of them, and the force of his fury made them both step back. You sold information about your own son to a dangerous man. You told him when Kai would be vulnerable, where he'd be with my children. You took money to betray him. We needed the money, his father protested. We're desperate. You don't understand. No, you don't understand, Riku said, his voice deadly quiet. You just committed multiple felonies. Conspiracy to kidnap. Endangerment of children, since my sons were present. And I have proof, bank records, witness statements, everything I need to put you both in prison for years. His mother started crying. Please, we're sorry. We made a mistake. Where is the factory? Riku demanded. Where is Tanaka holding key? We don't know. He didn't tell us, his father insisted. We just gave him information about Kai's schedule. Riku studied them both and saw they were telling the truth. They really hadn't known the details. Kenji, call the police. Have them arrested. Wait, his mother screamed. You can't. I can and I will, Riku said coldly. You hurt someone I love. You put my children in danger. There are consequences for that. As the police took them away, Riku felt no satisfaction. All he cared about was getting Kai back safely. By 11 p.m., Riku had a plan. He would go to the factory as instructed, but his best people would be positioned all around the area. The moment Kai was safe, they would move in. Riku wasn't going to let Tanaka walk away from this. The old factory was exactly as grim as expected, abandoned and decaying. Riku arrived with a briefcase full of money, though it was a fraction of what Tanaka had asked for. Just enough to look convincing from a distance. I'm here. Riku called out into the darkness. I have the money. Release my Omega. Lights flickered on, harsh and blinding. Mr. Tanaka stood on a platform above, and next to him, tied to a chair, was Kai. Even from this distance, Riku could see Kai was unharmed but scared. Riku, Kai called out. The money, Tanaka demanded. Show me. Riku opened the briefcase, displaying the cash. Let him go first. Do you think I'm stupid? Money first. Riku made a show of hesitating, giving his team time to get into position. Then he heard it, the subtle click in his earpiece that meant everyone was ready. Actually, Riku said calmly, I have a better idea. You surrender now, and maybe you'll only spend 15 years in prison instead of life. Tanaka's face twisted with rage. You brought backup. I told you to come alone. Did you really think I would? You kidnapped my mate. You threatened my family. That was your mistake. Suddenly, Riku's people moved in from all directions. Tanaka's guards tried to fight back, but they were outnumbered and outmatched. Within minutes, it was over. Riku ran up to the platform where Kai was tied. I've got you, he said gently, quickly cutting the ropes. You're safe now. Kai collapsed into Riku's arms, and Riku held him tightly, relief flooding through him. I was so scared, Kai whispered. I know. But it's over now. You're safe. Police sirens wailed outside. Riku had called them before coming, with complete evidence of the kidnapping. Mr. Tanaka and his men were arrested on the spot. 2 months later, the courtroom was packed with people curious about the high-profile case. The trial of Mr. Tanaka and Mr. and Mrs. Hayashi had drawn significant media attention. Kai sat in the witness stand, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. Riku sat in the front row of the gallery, his presence a steady comfort. The triplets were at home with a caretaker. but they'd made Kai promise to tell them everything later. The prosecutor asked Kai to tell his story, and Kai did. He told about being sold by his parents, about living in fear, about the kidnapping. He told about how Mr. Tanaka had threatened him, how his own parents had helped for money. His voice shook sometimes, but he kept going. When he finished, the defense attorney tried to make him seem less credible, suggesting he was exaggerating or lying. But Kai had learned to believe in himself over these past months. "I'm not lying," Kai said firmly, looking directly at the judge. "I lived in fear and abuse for years because people told me I was worthless. But I'm not worthless. No person is. And people who hurt others for money deserve to face justice." The judge, an older woman named Mrs. Kimura, looked at Kai with respect. "Thank you for your brave testimony, Mr. Nakamura." When the defense called his parents to the stand, trying to paint them as desperate victims of circumstance, Kai watched them carefully. His mother cried. His father looked remorseful, but Kai saw through it now. They were only sorry they'd been caught. "Do you have anything to say to your son?" The prosecutor asked his mother during cross-examination. She turned to Kai with tears streaming down her face. "We love you, Kai. We always loved you. Please forgive us." But Kai shook his head slowly. "No. Love doesn't sell their children. Love doesn't help kidnappers. Love doesn't hurt people over and over. I forgive you for my own peace of mind, but I'll never forget what you did. And I hope you use your time in prison to become better people." In the end, the jury found all 3 defendants guilty. Mrs. Kimura sentenced Mr. Tanaka to 15 years for kidnapping, extortion, and assault. She sentenced Kai's parents to 8 years each for conspiracy to commit kidnapping and child endangerment. As they took his parents away in handcuffs, his mother cried out one more time, "We're your parents. You have to help us." Kai stood up, Riku beside him. "You stopped being my parents when you chose money over me. I have real parents now, a partner who respects me, children who love me. I have a family. You have your consequences." He turned and walked out of the courtroom without looking back. 6 months after the trial, life had settled into a new normal. The mansion felt lighter somehow, as if a dark cloud had finally lifted. Kai had completed his child development certification and was now volunteering 3 days a week at the Omega shelter, helping others heal from trauma. But his favorite moments were still the simple ones at home. One evening, the whole family was in the living room. Haru was practicing his martial arts forms. Yuki was painting a mural on a canvas that covered half the wall. Sora was building an elaborate dinosaur habitat out of blocks. And Kai sat with Riku, both of them watching their boys with contentment. "Did you ever think we'd end up here?" Kai asked softly. "When you first saw me at that ceremony, did you imagine this?" Riku thought about it. "Honestly, no. I hoped to find someone kind who could help with my sons. But what I found was so much more. I found a partner, a best friend, the love of my life. I found someone who made my house into a home." Kai leaned his head on Riku's shoulder. "I thought my life was over when my parents sold me. I thought being infertile meant I'd never have a family, never be happy. But I was wrong. Family isn't about biology. It's about choosing to love each other every day." "Papa, Mama, look," Sora called out excitedly. "I finished my T-Rex habitat. It's amazing," Kai called back, getting up to admire it properly. Later that night, after the boys were asleep, Kai and Riku stood on their balcony looking at the stars. Kai had a surprise for Riku. "I got my first paycheck from the shelter today," Kai said. "It's not much, but it's mine. I earned it." Riku smiled. "I'm so proud of you. And I've been thinking. I want to start a foundation. Something to help Omegas who've been abandoned or abused. I want to give them what you gave me, hope, resources, a second chance." Kai looked at Riku nervously. "Would you support that? Support it?" Riku pulled Kai close. "I'll fund it. We'll make it happen together. What do you want to call it?" Kai thought for a moment. "The Second Chance Foundation. Because everyone deserves a second chance at happiness." "Perfect," Riku said and kissed him gently. As they stood there in each other's arms, Kai reflected on his journey. He'd been broken, then betrayed, then kidnapped. He'd faced his parents in court and stood up for himself. He'd learned that his worth wasn't determined by his biology or what others thought of him. He'd found real love, real family, and real purpose. The best revenge against those who had hurt him wasn't violence or cruelty. It was living well. It was building a beautiful life filled with love and meaning. It was becoming the person he'd always wanted to be. "Thank you," Kai whispered to Riku, "for seeing me when no one else did. For believing in me when I didn't believe in myself." "Thank you," Riku replied, "for teaching me that family is what we make it. For showing my sons what real love looks like. For being exactly who you are." Inside the house, they could hear one of the boys calling out in sleep. Without needing to discuss it, both went inside to check. Yuki had kicked off his blankets. Kai gently covered him again, tucking him in and kissing his forehead. "Sweet dreams, little one," Kai whispered. As they walked back to their own room, hand in hand, Kai knew with absolute certainty that he was exactly where he belonged. The scared, broken Omega from that ceremony hall was gone. In his place was someone stronger, someone who knew his worth, someone who had everything he'd ever dreamed of and more. He had found his family. He had found his purpose. He had found himself, and that was the happiest ending of all. Want more heartwarming stories like this? Subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What was your favorite moment in Kai's journey? And if this story touched your heart, please share it with others who might need a reminder that everyone deserves love and a second chance. Thank you for listening, and remember, your worth isn't determined by what others think of you. You are valuable exactly as you are.